Hey guys, I brought you in the back room here at the church office because I wanted you to hear something. So listen. Did you hear it? There it is again. That sound is something you might not recognize, something you might not hear a whole lot. Silence. Today, Wednesday, and the Passion Week is called, or a lot of people call it the Day of Silence, because the Bible doesn't actually record specifically what Jesus did on this day. Um, the assumption is probably that he was out teaching, but there's not specific, um, recording of that. So I thought on this day of silence that it would be appropriate for us to look at even just the whole idea of silence. When Jess and I first got married, she had kind of um, a beater of a car. It had treated her okay over the years, but by the time, especially we got married, it was ready to be replaced. And I remember not too long before we ended up replacing it, the radio on it had gone out. And I really couldn't forget that. I was reminded of it constantly because Jess would call me every time she was going anywhere. I would get a phone call. And it would be like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, oh, not much. Okay, then. And I found out? I found out that she really wasn't calling because she wanted to talk to me. Big surprise. But she was calling because her radio was broken. And it drove her crazy to try to drive around town with no noise in the car. To drive around town with the sound of silence ringing in her ears. It drove her crazy. So she would call me just to kind of hear something, hear a voice kind of thing. And we're kind of like that. We're afraid of silence. We're afraid of the quiet. When we walk into a room and it's quiet, we wonder what's wrong. When we're sitting, talking to a friend or something like that and they're quiet, it's just awkward. And we hate silence. It's scary to us. It's something we don't like. And today when I wasn't really completely sure where I was going to go with this, and interestingly enough, I was in my car listening to the radio, and I heard this song that came on the radio, the one that you listened to before. And the words that jumped out to me were these. It said, "So what can I say? What can I do? But offer this heart, O God, completely to you. So I'll stand, arms high and heart abandoned, in awe of the one who gave it all. So I'll stand, my Lord, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours." Especially that first line jumped out at me on this day of silence, that whole idea of silence. So what can I say? What can I offer to you, God, anyway? You've already given me everything. What can I say? What can I do? What can I offer beyond that? And really, the answer is nothing. We just can't. I remember when I went to the Metrodome the first time. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Metrodome, and of course now it's more famous for the roof collapsing than anything else. Which, by the way, I don't know if you're knowing or knew, but we're getting the roof here in Bismarck on the Community Bowl. But anyway, I remember going, and I was a huge Minnesota Twins fan. I was the kind of kid I could tell you any of their stats. I collected their baseball cards, magazines, all sorts of stuff. I could probably still tell you a lot of the starting lineups from those years when I was such a big fan. But I was a huge fan, and I remember I was so excited because we were going to the Metrodome. This is a place I'd only seen on TV before. And I used to watch games like crazy. And that was back when it was the Midwest Sports Channel. It wasn't Fox Sports North, but it was Midwest Sports Channel. And I would watch MSC, and I would watch, and I would see all the things, the turf and the wall and the big baggie out in right field, and just all the things that I'd seen. And here I was finally going to go to the Metrodome and experience it for myself. And if you've ever been to, whether it be the Metrodome or any other dome stadium, you walk in, and I remember walking in, and you hit that doorway, And just when you're about to walk in, you open the door, and a big gush of wind comes up behind you that's basically being sucked into the Metrodome or into the building. And boom, it just pushed me, just shot me straight into the building. And I remember kind of, whoa, kind of not knowing what to do with that. And I was just a scrawny little kid, so it kind of rocketed me in. But I remembered after that, once I kind of got my balance and figured out, I remember just standing there and looking around and seeing this building that I again, only seen on TV, and the wind just continually rushing over me, and just kind of standing there, not even really knowing what to say at that point. And I thought of that, and I thought of that even within this song. I'll stand in your presence, God, but what can I say? What can I offer? What can I do? There's nothing. But I'll stand in your presence and I'll soak you in, God. See, when we stand and when we will put ourselves in a position where we're willing to take on the silence, we're willing to deal with that, God will do things in our life. He'll talk to us in ways that we've never heard him before. So on this day of silence, I have a challenge for you. My challenge is that you will enjoy the silence for a little bit. Turn off your phone, log out of Facebook. After this is done, turn off your computer. Maybe even turn off your lights. Sometimes just things on the wall can be distracting to us. Turn everything off and just spend some time talking and then listening for God. I want to read you a verse here that kind of gives you a little picture of God, and I want you to kind of think about this, and when we're done, spend some time thanking him for this and thinking about this. It's from Psalm 140, starting in verse 13. It says, "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous, and how well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They are innumerable. I can't even count them, and they outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up in the morning, you are still with me." Then jump down to verse 23. "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life." Thanks, guys. I hope you can spend some time in silence after this, even if it's just a few minutes. And think about that. Think about that God that knew you before you were even born. And then he knows your thoughts. He knows what's going on, and he cares. And on this day of silence, use that. Use the quiet. Use the stillness around you to hear him and to understand him. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.